So the purpose of this particular action is to coerce compliance by Steve Bannon, who is the only person out there who thinks that he's above the law.
I would suggest using a phrase Mr. Bannon uses quite frequently, catch the signal, not the noise.
Catch the signal, not the noise. Okay. And you started off by saying that I didn't know Steve Bannon had a podcast. You've been on Steve Bannon's podcast 3 different times.
Way more than 3.
Okay, at least 3 times that I could find just by Googling it here. So do you accept that Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election?
Mr. President, I object to the votes for South Carolina.
Mr. President, I object on behalf of the millions of Americans, including members of the intelligence community.
Mr. President, I object to the votes from the state of Wisconsin, which should not be legally certified.
Debate.
The Russian
Join me in this letter of
No
objection.
debate. I have an objection by electors not lawfully certified.
Do you accept that he won the election by more than 7 million votes and defeated Donald Trump?
So I think that this was the first time in America's history where the mailbox beat the ballot
do you think
box.
there's any evidence, and where is that evidence?
I believe that had mail ballots not been sent to people who had not requested them, that Donald Trump would be sitting behind the Resolute desk.
Okay, but let's put it this way. Do you agree that 61 different federal and state courts have rejected every claim of electoral corruption or fraud that has been advanced? Do you agree with that?
I don't, and the reason is those claims are not evaluated because in many of the circumstances you referenced, jurisdiction was the principal question. So I think it requires a review of the procedure.
Do you have any case authority in the land where a court has determined that there was electoral corruption or electoral fraud that materially affected the outcome of the election in any state in the union? Do you have one?
Which I believe is a real failure of the judiciary. I think the Article 3 courts failed our country by not exercising more jurisdiction over those questions. Now, there's a difference in whether or not fraud existed and whether or not there's an adequate remedy. And I think also a number of those cases were kicked on.
Well, no court has said that fraud existed, and so there's no remedy because there's no violation, Mr. Gates.
Right, but you cannot.
There's no violation. There's no fraud.
That there was no fraud if they didn't take up the question and review the facts on jurisdiction or remedy.
You know what? That might work on Steve Bannon's podcast, but that's not going to work in the Rules Committee of the United States House of Representatives. I'm sorry, Mr. Gates.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Let's say that the exact same attack had taken place, but let's say it wasn't the Proud Boys. Let's say it was Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Would you really not want an investigation into what happened with that attack on America?
If Al-Qaeda or ISIS attacked the U.S. Capitol, I would think that the least capable institution to bring them to justice would be this January 6th committee.
You would not want...
I would far prefer the legal process to play out or the military process to play out. If the American people had to rely on the Congress itself as an institution to protect us from ISIS without law enforcement, without the military, we would be in deep, deep trouble.